Alright guys, first I'd like to thank you guys for taking your time to let me come. I really appreciate it. This is what I do. This is what I'm doing the rest of my life. I enjoy this, so again, I appreciate you guys just paying attention and having fun. My name is Matt Macoubrie, as she said. I am a junior at Wayne State College, majoring in social sciences education. And this is a copy of the front of my book. So it's called Piercing the Head of Equality. It's about John Wilkes Booth and his journey throughout the Lincoln Assassinations and his escape, and then his eventual death in Virginia. Throughout this time, I have researched a lot. I went to Ford's Theater last spring to do some research at Ford's Theater, and I worked in the National Archives for a day or so, and I research pass, yeah, embarrassing picture, but that's the gun John Wilkes Booth had. I don't know if you guys visited Ford's Theater, but
yeah, we did.
Yeah, it's a pretty small gun. Can't believe the Dash did that much, but that's that. And then on the way, I also went to Montpelier, which is James Madison's home, and I also went to Monticello, which is Jefferson's home. Anyways, start with a little bit about Booth. He was born May 10th, 1838, to Junius and Mary Ann Holmes. Funny thing about these guys is that this guy's an actor, and she's not. She's nowhere near the realm of this guy, which I'll talk to you a little bit. They grew up on a Tudor Hall, which is a 150-acre mansion that they bought when they came over from London. And so this is what it looks like back then. This is not them, but this is where Booth grew up. So a little bit about Junius. He was a well-known actor in England, and he did a lot of plays of Shakespeare and Othello and Romeo, just as Booth would do later. But he met Mary Ann Holmes while he was working there, and they ran off to the United States, good old United States. Weird thing is that he never told Mary Ann Holmes about his wife. So he was running off with his mistress to the United States, and for 30 years, Mary Ann Holmes and James Brutus Booth were dating until Marie Delanoy, his wife, came over to the United States and found out that he had been cheating on her. For 30 years, he kept that a secret. And then coincidentally, they got, Mary Ann Holmes and Brutus got married on John's 13th birthday. It's really, awkward. This is Booth at a young age, approximately 15, 16. We don't have any pictures of him when he was younger, but he did a lot of acting, especially in Richmond and Philadelphia. He got his first one in Philadelphia at the R Street Theater in, I think, 1858. And then he did a lot of Shakespeare. His greatest asset was he could walk into a play and not even memorize the material and be able to do great. And in 1862, he did 162 plays by himself as a leading role. So he was a very upcoming star. Like I said, he acted with an acting family. This is his dad, John, and his brother Edwin, who also acted. Booth is one of 10 children that Mary Ann had, and this is before she found out that he had a wife. So they acted a lot together. They did a lot of Shakespeare plays together. They enjoyed doing a lot of Macbeth. I guess it just kind of came to them naturally. Yeah, and this is what I said about Philadelphia Art Street Theater. This is where he first started getting his roles, and then he moved over to Virginia, where he started doing most of his acting, especially in Richmond, which you guys know. Richmond is the Confederate capital during the Civil War. During this time, he was a womanizer. He had dark eyes, long hair, beautiful voice. People just loved being around him, especially the women. He was pretty popular with women back then. So at the start of the Civil War, he was acting, and all his friends were saying, "Hey, come join us, come join us." And he's saying, "I can't." Because the funny thing is, he told his mother that he wouldn't join which is really funny because you wouldn't think that someone that would kill someone would take orders from their mother like that. But he had a pretty strong relationship with his mom, so that's why he didn't join right away. And when he joined, this is what it looked like. And he was born in Maryland, which is a border state, which Lincoln tried to take to be in the Union because he had so many military aspects of trade and moving. So, as you can see, he was kind of in the middle of it, but not really. Thing with Lincoln is during this time, I'm sure you guys all, what you guys learned is that Lincoln was a great guy, right? Well, at this time, not only was he the most loved, but he was one of the most hated too. I mean, it was pretty much 50-50. You were either with him or against him. There's a lot of Southerners who just totally disliked him because he wanted slavery to end, and the Confederate States did not. And what Booth ended up saying in one of his letters to a friend was that slavery was actually a blessing to slaves. It gave them a chance at life, which obviously it doesn't, but that's it. That's his thought. First, the assassination started. The planning started after the South fell at Richmond, and 1864, Booth and his conspirators. Does everyone know what a conspirator is? All right, just key terms. They started talking in 1864 with Mary Surratt, which is, if you've seen The Conspirator, that's the main lady who's charged. That's what the movie's about. But they met at her boarding house and started conspiring to kidnap the president. So in 1864, he had some people come over, and they decided to kidnap the president and exchange him for prisoners of war for the Confederates, because he figured that Richmond was going to fall, and that he better get his Confederate high officials back before it happens. So here are the conspirators. This is John Surratt. He was a courier for the Confederates during the Civil War. He did a lot of passing letters, especially to Canada, which is where the hotbed of Confederate were. I mean, as much as Richmond was, Canada was largely Confederate. This is Michael O'Laughlin. He was a friend of Booth's, but also served in the war. He wouldn't play a major role, but yet he was still there. This is George Astaroth. He was the man who was supposed to kill Andrew Johnson, but I'll talk about it a little later. That is Samuel Arnold. He is another character, just like O'Laughlin, that hadn't had much to do with the actual conspiracies, but he still had somewhat of a role. This is Lewis Powell. He was a Confederate soldier. He was probably one of the best that they had. He was very good at sneak attacks, hand-to-hand combat, which is what some of it was. I think I heard a story once about how he was supposed to go to Antietam, but he ended up skipping out, or he got somewhere else. So you guys know about Antietam. It was like the bloodiest battle we've ever had, including D-Day and that kind of stuff. So this is David Harold, also a friend of Booth's. He was his right-hand man, really. He talked to him all the time. He made sure all the appointments were set up, and he was supposed to be there with Booth when he escaped. And then finally, this is Mary Surratt. As I said, she owned a boarding house and a tavern where he would go pick up the carbines on his escape. And later on, I'll tell you about why she's significant. All right. So the first assassination attempt was after the failed plot to kidnap Lincoln was set for 1865. They didn't know really when, but back then, what happened was since he was elected in Lincoln was elected in 1864, it took them a little while to get into office again, and he kind of had to get a new cabinet ready, and so Booth was, thinking, I'm going to get all these guys, I want to disintegrate the Union. So he planned for 1865, and then him and his conspirators that I just mentioned decided on these three characters. So you got Vice President Andrew Johnson, Secretary of State William H. Seward, and then obviously President Lincoln. Now, had they wiped out every single one of these, those are the top 3 cabinet positions at the time. Now, instead of Secretary of State, it's Speaker of the House. So, I can't remember when that changed, but so those are the 3 guys that are meant to be killed. The first attempt was on William H. Seward, April 14th, 1865. They all happened on the same day. What happened was Lewis Powell came into the house. He had medicine for Seward. Seward had gotten a carriage accident about a month earlier, so he needed a metal plate in his jaw. So Lewis Powell came in, said he had some medicine. He obviously didn't, and he walked up to the servant that was at the house and said, you know, I have some medicine for him. You know, can I just go give it to him? The servant's like, no, it's okay. I'll go give it to him. And Powell said, you know, I insist. You know, so he starts to turn around, and then he just quickly turns back around and stabs the servant that was there. Runs up the stairs, and he sees Frederick Seward, which is his son, and he pulls the trigger, but there's no bullets in there. So all he hears is a clip, and then he realizes, you know, I have no bullets in the gun. I mean, you'd think a guy that, you know, is going to come kill somebody would actually, you know, have a loaded pistol. I mean, you know, as smart as he was, he really screwed up that time. And then so after that, he just went to his basic instincts of just crashing him over the head with his pistol. Frederick Seward would end up having lifetime brain injuries from it, so he really kind of bashed him in. Anyways, so he went upstairs. He sees Fanny Seward, which is also his daughter, sitting there, and she says, you know, I hear a commotion, but, you know, my father's asleep, you know, just let me handle this. And Powell says, no, I have medicine, and then he starts turning violent, pushes Fanny aside and starts to stab William Seward. The problem is that he was going for the jugular vein, so, you know, if you get that, it's an instant kill. But, like I said earlier, he had a metal plate in there, so Powell didn't know that. So he kept on stabbing and stabbing and stabbing, and all he could hit was metal. And, you know, again, another faulty planning by him. You'd think that after, like, the 20th time that he's stabbing him, nothing's happening. He'd go for, like, the face or the chest, but he ended up just stopping and just leaving. He survived from it, though. I mean, you can see he's kind of messed up around here. But he survives, and Powell leaves the house, waiting for Harold, who was supposed to be there with him. Harold leaves because he hears a lot of commotion, and so Powell just running off by himself. And this is the revolver, the one he used. This is at Ford's Theater as well. So they pretty much all had the same revolver. Booth, Astaroth, and Powell. They're a little different sometimes, but that's mainly the one he used. So the next one is not too much to talk about, because this guy, George Astaroth, was